Happy Monday, Monarchs. Welcome to our first Monty's Career Monday, hashtag MCM. I am so excited to be here for you today with some fantastic people who have different careers. So we're going to speak to an actor, a carpenter, a doctor of brain science, an author, and with us here on the panel, we have Matthew Van Wettering. He is our actor. Eric Martin, a carpenter / real estate guru. Miss Carolyn Meyer, an author. And Dr. Chris Forsyth. So we're going to start today without wasting any time. Jumping in, I'm going to let Matthew Van Wettering take the floor, introduce himself, and tell you all about his accolades and what he's done, and everything about the New Mexico film industry he can share with us. Hi, Matthew. Welcome.
Good morning. Hey, thanks for having me. What's up, everybody? Glad to be here today, talking to you guys at a very pivotal time in your lives, when you want to kind of steer in direction. I am an actor. I have been acting since I was 5 years old. I saw my first play when I was 4 in Dallas, Texas, and it was a life-changing experience. I still remember the theater, the play, the risers that we sat on. I remember everything about it, and I was in my first play a year later. And then I acted all through school. Every possible school production I could be in, I did. Everything from musicals to everything else you guys get to put on. My drama director in high school was probably the biggest influence during that time. And I still remember things that he told me way back then. One of which I will tell you, stay in character. That's one of the best pieces of advice an actor can give you. Stay in character. Harder to do than you may think in certain situations. But the ability to hold on to the given circumstance is huge. Eric K., that was his name. And I went on to the University of Wyoming, and I was a theater major. I was there for 2 years, and I ended up trying something different. I dropped out of college, and there was necessity to support myself. And so I learned how to make some money as a carpenter, as a construction worker. I did all kinds of stuff. You got a great builder here to talk to you about that later, so I won't talk to you much about that. But I did have to find an alternative way to support myself and my family for a time. And so I took a little bit of time away from acting and the theater, and about my mid-20s, I remembered, hey, there's this thing that I love to do, and that's tell stories. And I got back into the theater. That was here in Albuquerque. And we have a great theater scene. If you guys get the chance to become a part of that, community theater is a great way to learn without being in the classroom setting. But you still get all the experience of what it takes to present a story to an audience, and then a few years into doing back-to-back shows year-round, working during the day, doing plays at night. I ended up getting an agent here in town, Carissa Mitchell, and I got started in film and television. And Albuquerque has been amazing for that. We have a great industry here. I encourage everyone who's interested to look into nmfilm.com. And there are opportunities with crew. There are so many different jobs when it comes to putting a movie together. And it takes a ton of really great people working together to do it well. And we have a ton of resource here in New Mexico if you guys want to pursue that. And I've been working as an actor for 7 years. That is my occupation. I feel privileged to be able to say that. It's a dream come true since I was 4 years old. So um, there's a whole bunch of advice I could give if you want to be an actor. And I'm on Facebook, Matthew Van Wettering. If you guys want to friend me and maybe reach out that way, I'm totally cool with that. But the main thing I would want to bring up is that you have to look at why you want to be an actor. Is it for you or is it for other people? Because if you're doing it for yourself just to be famous, then those are probably the wrong reasons to do it. I love telling a story to other people, affecting someone, whether it be to make them mad, make them sad, make them laugh. That is feeling human, and that's something I really appreciate. And that's what I remember growing up, watching a great movie, feeling that. That's the same thing I want to do for other people. And it's never to be famous and never for the money, because it's been a long road and there's been very little money in a number of times. So you really have to ask yourself why you want to do it. And then one big piece of advice, if you do want to pursue acting, is learn about yourself, because you bring so much of yourself to everything you do. The acting that we do, it's not acting, it's being real, it's being you or something you understand in that situation under those circumstances. People think they have to change their voice to be an actor. No, bring your voice. You have to change your body. No, you don't have to. It comes from inside. It doesn't come from something that you have to get from somebody else. So know yourself and live honestly, because your honesty comes out in your work. If you lie on a regular basis in your day-to-day life, it's going to be like you're lying when you're working. So be honest, live honestly.
Yeah, genuine.
Absolutely. It's the genuosity is so apparent when you look over the decades and how it's evolved. And I'm actually getting into voiceover nowadays since quarantine, and there is no announcer's voice anymore. When you listen to ads on TV or the radio, it's someone speaking. It's them. It's their voice. And so you need to learn it and be comfortable with it and learn how to use it to your benefit. So those are some of the high points there.
I think that is extremely great advice and comforting also, because just come as you are.
You are enough.
Your voice. Yes.
Those 3 words, you are enough.
I love that.
That's all you have to, just be the best you can be. And every role is an opportunity to learn. I mean, whether you're playing a lawyer or a carpenter or an author or a doctor, though, you get to learn something with each opportunity, and you really make yourself stronger that way. So
Matthew, let me ask you a couple of questions. Just because some of our students might not know some of the stuff that you've done, some of your work, could you share what your favorite acting job was, and maybe your not favorite acting job, so we can kind of get a picture of your experience and why it was your favorite or your least favorite?
That's tough. I love them all. I really do. Every chance I get to be what I am is beautiful. And least favorite, I kind of feel the same way. It's like every day I get to wake up and do this work is a good day, And to say the worst, I don't know. There've been some really cool ones here in Albuquerque, and like, you're not an actor in Albuquerque unless you've done Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. Now, here's a story. I came into film and television after Breaking Bad was already wrapped, the television series. And so Better Call Saul started up. And I auditioned for episode 1, season 1. And I auditioned about 20 to 25 times for Better Call Saul, all the way through season 5. It was my white whale. I wanted it so bad, and I was on hold 6 times, which is the first loser, right? If you're second, you're the first loser, and you just weren't chosen that day, right? Well,
Right.
I wasn't chosen a bunch, and then Better El Camino came out, and it worked out. I got to be on El Camino, the Breaking Bad movie, and it was all those auditions where Vince Gilligan knew me. He knew my tapes, you know. I had worked, I had tried so much, but I didn't give up. And audition 26, it happened. So you never know.
Yeah.
Just got to keep at it.
And you got a piece in that story, which is awesome because I'm a huge fan of anything Vince Gilligan does. And so, I mean, that is very relatable. And the fact that you got to be part of that story in some way is awesome.
And I'll tell you something else that helped me is, you know, as an actor, you still get to branch off into all these different things. And about 5 years ago, I started at UCB, the Upright Citizens Brigade in LA, learning improv. And I've spent the past 5 years working on improv also. And in that movie, I had one line in the script, but I am in all over the place during those scenes because I also learned how to improvise, and learning all these different things really help you with, you know, the one thing technically you're supposed to do. So I would encourage anybody who wants to act, to keep learning. Like it's nonstop, always taking in information, learning it, and then using it. That's all you do. And so learning is just every bit a part, fundamental to acting.
Mm-hmm. So, Matthew, are you a resident of Albuquerque? Do you live
I am, yeah. I've been here since 03.
03. And you've just been into the theater since you were 5 years old. What was that play that you saw when you were 5?
Peter and the Wolf. I still remember the flute that played the bird, right? The bird's flying around and there's a flute. And I remember the boy with his cap gun. I mean, it was great. It was life-changing.
And so you've kind of shown us that, I mean, from being in a play to just the production piece to voiceovering, there's just an enormous amount of opportunities in this industry that aren't all acting related, but they're tied together. Mm-hmm. And you can do multiple things. You can do improv in a play, and you're doing voiceovers, and you can act in a movie. So there's just a lot of opportunities out there for people working in this industry.
Yeah, you know, when you asked the question earlier of what was my favorite thing I worked on, the first thing that was brought to mind was a play. I mean, I've gotten to do 10 major motion pictures. I've been on 12 different television series, and it was a play that was my favorite thing because of the story, because of the people that we got to tell it to, and the people I got to work with. It was top notch. That was my favorite thing. And that play was a Tony Kushner adaptation of Moliere's The Illusion, which was a very old play, and Tony Kushner did some things with it, and it was a beautiful thing to touch people the way we were able to.
And you know, Matthew, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, for being just so humble and genuine, and being flexible with meeting with us and our students. I can't tell you how much that means for all our presenters to take the time out of their busy schedule to share their story. of their career with our students. So thank you so much for being on today.
I really appreciate the opportunity. Good luck to everyone. And if you guys need anything, please reach out.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next, we have a carpenter who's from the trades. He owns his own construction business. He's been an entrepreneur, realtor, house flipper. He has 25 years experience working with his hands. He's a great guy all around. This is Eric Martin. He's here to share his career story with us today. Hi, Eric.
Hello. How's everybody doing?
Welcome to Manzano High School.
Yeah.
Virtual setting.
Awesome. Monty, is he the mascot?
Yes, he's the mascot.
Okay. I was trying to figure that out. So
yeah.
Cool.
So cool. Eric, tell me about the trades and how you got started.
So how I got started into the business was after high school, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, so I went into the military. I was 4 years in the military, and then when I got out of the military, I went back to Michigan. That's where I'm from, and just wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I was kind of flopping around a little bit. School wasn't always my thing. I did have the GI Bill that, if I wanted to go to college, I could. I took a couple classes, but school's never really been my strong point. So my cousin, he was working with one of his friends that owned a construction company doing finished carpentry. So he said, hey, we need some help. Why don't you come out and work with us? And I said, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just said, why not, So I went and started working with them and just really picked it up quick. I really liked working with my hands, working with tools. We got to use a lot of saws and nail guns. And it was very detailed work. Finished carpentry is, the moldings and the doors and everything that makes the house look nice. So it's very detailed. And I just really picked it up. And then after some time, my cousin and myself, we actually started our own company. So we kind of branched off from his friend and we started our own company. And then we did that probably for about, I'd say 3 years or so. And then I just kind of decided that Michigan just wasn't the place I wanted to be. It was just too cold. And I just wanted to do something else. So one of my really good friends from the military lived in Albuquerque. So he had always told me, hey, come out to Albuquerque. It's really cool. Mm-hmm. So I decided that's what I was going to do. So I moved to Albuquerque. I think it was in 2000. And pretty soon after I moved here, I at first got a job for a brief time working on all the casinos. We worked on Sandia Casino, Isleta Casino, and all those. And I was doing finished carpentry on all those jobs. And then soon after that, I realized there was a lot of work and that there was opportunity for me to just go back to being self-employed again, which I've always loved. I've pretty much been self-employed other than a few little jobs here and there for over 25 years. And probably even longer than that, because I was that kid that was out shoveling snow, cutting people's grass, had a paper route. Like I was working since the day I could. So I've always kind of been an entrepreneur. So I guess maybe I just don't like people really telling me what to do. So I like to do my own thing, That's great for people that, you have your own brain, you have your own things you want to do. You don't really like people telling you what to do. So being self-employed is definitely the route you want to consider if that's your personality. So I started here in New Mexico in around 2000. I basically stayed in the same thing that I was doing. I stayed into finished carpentry just because it's the skill that I learned, what I knew best. I was really good at it. And when I came to Albuquerque, it was just really easy for me to find work because I was just out there talking to people and going to the jobs. And it just seemed, easy for me. And then when I started working, I guess from how I learned, I had such a strong work ethic that it was just easy for me to excel in the business. So as I went on, I I got more work, and then I ended up having people working for me. I did a lot of different types of jobs. I did some commercial work, working on, anywhere from like a Walgreens to like stores in the mall, all kinds of different jobs. And one of the things that I really got into, which is probably the majority of my business now, as far as construction goes, I work for all the builders. So all the builders that like build houses in Albuquerque, like D.R. Horton, Abrazo Homes, Hakes Brothers, all the big builders that you see as you drive around, all these signs that, point you to these subdivisions. I do their finished carpentry. So I probably do most of the big builders. I think last year we did approximately 400 homes just on that. So it's definitely profitable. There's definitely business out there. It all depends on what you want to put into it. The one thing that I really love about being self-employed is there's no cap on your salary. Sometimes when you go and you work for different people, even if you get promoted to the highest level that you can only make so much.
Right.
So with being self-employed, really it's up to you how much you want to make. How much do you want to grow your business? How much do you want to put into it? How much do you want to learn so you can move on to the next level? Sorry, I'm getting parched. So that's one thing that I've really enjoyed about being self-employed is really my income and my success is really relies on me.
Right. So
I think that's really important, especially for people, that maybe have really big dreams and really big things that they want. This, being self-employed and owning your own business is definitely a way that you can do that. One good thing about it is there's a lot of flexibility. Like right now, I'm here because I made my schedule and I can do that. I make my own schedule. There's days definitely where I wake up at 4 a.m. and at 9:30 at night, I'm still working. So, it's a give and a take, but if I can plan things around my schedule, and that's really nice, to be able to do that. Than having maybe say like a 9-to-5 job where, Monday through Friday, that's where you are 9 to 5. Some people love that. Sometimes that works out great for people. I just not for me. I like to do my own thing. I just kind of really love it.
I love that you have pointed out a couple of things that aren't for everybody. College isn't necessarily for everyone. Cold weather not necessarily for everyone.
Yeah, very true.
Having a boss and like a cap on your salary and how high you can go is not always for everybody. So the fact that, being that wasn't for you, you were still highly motivated and driven to learn the trade, build this business. And it sounds to me like it's extremely successful and that you have that freedom with your schedule to do with what you want. So, and you have employees now, so you're the boss, right?
Yes. I like to think so. Yeah. And then, so, through doing this, you also learn a lot of different things in trades. I've owned several houses that I've worked on. So as I did that, I did tile work and I did drywall and I did this and I did that, did landscaping. So as, being in construction, you just start to do all kinds of different things. You learn different trades. You learn what it takes to do other trades. So you have a lot of respect for other trades because you see what, talent it is to do other trades. And then, I got into real estate just because I wanted to flip houses. So I figured if I could buy the houses, sell the houses, that kind of you save money on commissions and stuff like that. And that's really rewarding. It's really cool to go into a house that's just wrecked. It's just torn up. It's old, and you just tear it apart and you rebuild it and you make it this beautiful thing. And someone comes along and they love the house, and it's satisfying. It's a really satisfying thing. I think that's one of the things about carpentry and just construction in general is that you start with this thing, and then you build it, and then when it's done, it's just satisfying that, like, wow, I accomplished something. So it also teaches you how to achieve goals. Even if your goal is, hey, I'm going to build this deck today. That's your goal for the day or that week. I'm going to build this deck. And once you complete it, you completed that goal. So it's also a life skill of just learning how to, achieve goals and get something done in a process that's efficient. And then, when you make money doing that, that's even a bonus. So
real quick, Eric, can you talk about, I mean, you kind of touched on how you learned your trades, but was there specific schooling you needed to go to, or specific license you needed to get to be able to practice?
So as far as schooling goes, I did not have any schooling as far as carpentry went. I basically just learned hands-on. There is schooling that you can take for carpentry, I believe, in college. And there's also construction management, which would be really, really helpful if you plan on owning a construction company. So there is degrees and different, certificates and things you can get, but you don't necessarily need that. Really, it's about experience. Now, in pretty much any state, you need to have a license to perform work. So when they say contractor, basically what that means is you're able to sign contracts. Is basically what it boils down to. So you have insurance, you're bonded, you have the skills because of you passed the test to get the license. And then you're able to go out and sign contracts with people saying they want you to do this for them, and that's what you're going to do. It's all in the contract, what exactly needs to be done. So, having even like a business degree would be a super great thing to have if you're going to go into construction or any business, just to learn the aspects of how to run a business. All that I pretty much learned by trial and error. I kind of, just did it myself and learned. I was always pretty good at math. So it was like, oh, numbers. Oh, if I do this, I can make this much. To me, it was kind of how I learned. And then, paperwork's not my forte. So a lot of times I'll hire somebody to help me with that. And, one thing that I've learned, just in life and with doing a few different things is always do what you're good at. And if you're not good at something, get help from somebody else to do that thing. So you don't have to do everything. Like if you're not really good at accounting, well, get an accountant. If you're not really good at, cutting trees, then get someone to cut your trees. I think you just always do what you're best at. That's what you're going to be the most successful with, and you're going to make the most money. If there's things that you don't really know how to do, either learn how to do them or just get somebody else to do them. That's kind of how it's always worked for me.
I love that. And Eric, thank you so much for being here today to talk to us about your experience, your world. Just definitely not the traditional route that, cookie cutter education isn't for everyone. And you went your own route. You paved your own way. You've been highly successful. And I like that you highlighted that math is important in your job. You had to pass tests to get there, but then you're also, when to reach out for help and get help. So thank you for coming on to talk to our students today. You are an example of a highly successful person that self-educated in the trades and driven, motivated, learned you wanted it, and you've created your own reality, which is awesome. So
yeah, I think the one advice that I would give to everybody, no matter what you're going to get into, is it's all about your mindset. You have to stay in a positive mindset. Your thoughts create your reality. So if you're thinking that you're going to be good doing something, you're doing that, you will. If you bring in negativity, then it's going to bring you down. So no matter what career you go into or what you do, just stay positive. Always stay positive. Think about yourself in a positive way. Dream, envision the things that you want, and you'll be successful in anything you do. So I think that's really important.
Thank you, Eric. I could talk to you all day, but we have another person coming on, but thank you for
sharing. All right.
experience. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Okay, see you soon. Next, we have Dr. Forsyth, who is a doctor of brain science. He is the founder and president of the Brain Hackers Association, which is a nonprofit organization that provides STEM programs for the youth, which focuses on brain science, robotics, computer programming. Currently, he's creating a teen tech center and starting an after-school robotics program at Manzano. He has so many accomplishments. I'm going to let him share his story of his education and how he got to be where he is. Thank you, Dr. Forsyth, for coming on today.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here. And I'm going to start out with just a very quick plug. We are starting a robotics team at Manzano. And by robotics, I mean a competitive robotics team. So, like, for instance, you may have seen BattleBots on television. We're going to be building robots that are just as sophisticated as what you might have seen in BattleBots, except it's not BattleBots where they go and destroy each other, but it is very competitive. And essentially, we'll be building robots that are human scale, as tall as you are, weigh 140 pounds. They compete on a field the size of a basketball court and can get up to speeds as fast as 20 miles per hour. Oh, yeah. So a lot of acceleration and so forth. So we're looking for students that like to get involved in robotics. No experience is required. And also, there's a lot of different jobs you can have. If you like building and putting things together, there's lots of jobs building and putting things together. If you want to do programming, there's lots of jobs in programming. We need a couple of really good mathematicians on the team because you figure everything out on paper before you start building things. But we also need people who are good at graphic arts because we have to do a lot of communication and things of that nature. We need people to run the business side of the team. So, and we also just need people who just want to hang out and enjoy themselves and find some way to be useful. And I guess the one thing is I'll say, if you get involved, I guarantee it will be one of the most thrilling, exciting, fun things you do while you're in high school. So with that, first of all, I'm Chris Forsyth. Yes, I am technically a doctor. I have a PhD in cognitive neuroscience. I'm retired from Sandia National Labs. When I retired, I had the title Distinguished Staff Member. I like to say that I spent over 25 years doing research on human performance, and especially the area that I specialized in my research was what is it that makes someone an expert? So no matter what field you look at, there are some people who are good, and there are some people who are just competent, but there are other people that everybody looks at and they recognize that person is just better than everybody else. And so my research was focused on trying to understand what it is that makes someone an elite performer and what are the measures that can be taken to help people move closer to becoming, if not becoming, an elite performer themselves. So my history. I grew up in West Tennessee, and in a very rural area of West Tennessee. And I came from my family were raised cotton and had construction business. And this was a part of the country when I was in high school, which would have been the mid-1970s. This is a part of the country where 40% of the boys never finished high school. There was this enormous dropout rate. And myself, I dropped out of high school in 10th grade. I got about a third of the way through 10th grade, and I just looked at what people were doing, working in the trades with some of my family members, and thought that just looks so much more fun than going to school and doing all this stuff. And And granted, the schools in West Tennessee were not very good. I mean, your school is so much better than the schools we had where I grew up. So anyway, 10th grade, I was out, essentially every day working on a construction site, and I went about that for a few years, and I had this very strange twist of fate. My family moved to this rural area in California, and I had no problem finding a job, in this case, working with an electrical company, doing electrical on new houses and buildings, and a lot of repair work and things of that nature. And I've been doing that for about a year and a half. I was almost 20, and I got to looking around, and I realized I can keep doing what I'm doing right now, and I will make a lot of money, and I will probably have my own business, and I'm sure I will be successful in life. But the way things are right now, where I'm living and what I'm doing, I am never going to meet any girls. And at the same time, I realized there's a community college, and if I went and took a few classes at this community college, I'd probably meet a few girls. And so I went to college. And the thing I discovered when I went to college was, having worked in construction, I had developed this work ethic, because the people I worked with, they worked hard and they expected everybody to work hard. And I had developed this work ethic that I never thought I was really the smartest person in the classes or whatever. But having this work ethic let me do very, very well in college, and I started liking it. And the next thing you know, I've been in college for 10 years. 10 years had passed, and I was getting a PhD. And so I guess the first lesson that I would emphasize is life is very forgiving. You can make some really huge mistakes in life, but life is just enormously forgiving, in that, like me, you would think, oh, dropping out of high school in 10th grade, well, your ceiling is pretty low. You're not going to really achieve a whole lot in life. But no, life is extremely forgiving and gives you opportunities to, make mistakes, recover from those mistakes. And I'll say a little bit more about this as I go on, but I think making mistakes is one of the best things you can do in life, because I'll tell you, studying elite performers. I spent a lot of time working with the Navy and working with the Top Gun pilots. And one of the things, you see those guys and you think, oh, they are perfect. They never make a mistake. If you sit in a debriefing with these Top Gun pilots, you realize they make mistakes all the time. However, being good at what they do, they make a mistake, they recover from that mistake before anyone even realizes they made a mistake. In fact, I've heard it said, and I believe it's true, they often make a mistake and they realize that they've made a mistake before they actually do it. And I think making mistakes is really an important part of life, because making mistakes lets you learn how to recover from making mistakes, so that you can make a mistake, you can completely fall on your face, but for everybody around you watching, they never even know it. So anyway, let's see. I went to graduate school. I got a PhD. My first job out of graduate school was with General Dynamics, and they're a major defense contractor. I was working in the division where they made the battle tanks, and I worked there for about 2.5 years. I was very fortunate. I met my wife there, and that was a very nice thing about working at General Dynamics. But after about 2.5 years there, there was major cuts in the budgets, and I was there the day when the building I worked in, there were 4,000 people who worked in that building. 1,000 of the 4,000 people got laid off in one day. So, and I was one of those, and I was one of the new people. So essentially all the new people got laid off. And so the second lesson I want to sort of emphasize is, I like to say, life gives you gifts. But a lot of times you don't realize you were just given a gift until many years down the road. What happened? I got laid off. Yeah, everybody thought it was bad getting laid off. It didn't really bother me that much because I knew I was still young. I still had a long career ahead of me, and I was going to get over it. But it could have been a source for really getting down. But what happened was I went out. I started looking for a job. I got a job at Sandia National Labs. My starting salary was almost double what I was making at General Dynamics. At General Dynamics, essentially you'd have like 8 people who would share a computer. My first day at Sandia, someone asked me, "What kind of computer do you want?" And my first thought, what? I get my own computer? And keep in mind, this was like 1993. So, the whole thing is, getting laid off, this was like, I could, in life, I would have to, there are only a few gifts I've been given that were greater gifts than getting laid off from my first job at General Dynamics. So anyway, at Sandia, I worked in the human factors organization, as well as a number of organizations. And again, I specialized in human performance. I did research on human performance in a lot of different settings and so forth. The biggest thing, and what essentially got me the title Distinguished Staff Member, was I started a program at Sandia focused on human performance. And this was something, Sandia only had like 3 or 4 people that did any work of that nature. And from scratch, we turned this into like a $20 million a year program. Right now, there's probably maybe somewhere between 2 and 3 dozen people that have jobs at Sandia that would not have jobs at Sandia if not for this program that we started. And it would have been very easy for me to go to Sandia, do my job, just sort of do the things I needed to do and have a successful, safe career. But I challenged myself. And that's my next lesson I want to emphasize is you've got to challenge yourself in life. And the thing about challenging yourself, you're going to fail more often than you're successful. And the way that you know that you're doing it right is if you do fail fairly often, because if everything works, you don't learn anything. When you try something really hard and you put your heart into it and you fail, that's when you really learn how to come back and do something better and greater than you did before. The last lesson I want to emphasize, it's important to be good, but it's also important to be lucky. And when I say lucky, I don't mean like buying lottery ticket or going to the casino lucky. I mean creating opportunities that allow you to have luck. And I'm going to real quickly tell you one last story. While I was at Sandia National Labs, I saw the Navy was holding this meeting and this topic called situation awareness. It sounded interesting, and I thought, I didn't know anybody there. I didn't know, I didn't know if anybody would even be interested in what I was doing. But I signed up, I registered, I went to this meeting, I gave a presentation on the work that I was doing. No one there knew me or anything of that nature. At the end of that meeting, a guy came up who I was fairly early in my career at Sandia. He was fairly early in his career as an officer in the Navy. He liked the stuff I was doing. We got to talking. We developed a friendship. Keep in mind, all this absolute, total dumb luck. He and I became friends. And over the course of the next decade, he probably sent somewhere between $100 and $150 million to Sandia. And all of that was a result of I just chose to go to this meeting, and I went there and I made a friend, and you see what happens. And that's why I say you create opportunities for luck to happen. And don't ever think you're great. You're great because you're great. It's because you're great, but it's also because you've been lucky. And if you're lucky, it's most likely that you've created opportunities for yourself to be lucky. So.
Oh man. I feel so lucky to have crossed paths with you, Dr. Forsyth. I love your talks about mistakes, failures, challenges, and my window closed.
No.
There we go. I couldn't have said it better, and I think that coming from you, you put it in an expert type, box where you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna fail, but if you are learning and focusing on the positive of those outcomes, you find yourself getting those gifts from life. Like this is just, I feel super lucky to be at Manzano with these students and in this role, because I get to meet with people like you. And this is just, a passion of mine. And thank you for sharing those lessons with our students. I mean, I could not have said it better. So thank you so much for being here. I loved hearing your story. I could talk to you all day too. But, yeah, and I want to join the club.
You are definitely welcome. We need mentors. So you're absolutely welcome to join us. Oh, I did mention Miss Simpson and Miss Bolt are the staff sponsors, and Casey Forsyth is the student sponsor. So if you're interested in the robotics, talk to one of them.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for being here. And we have one more speaker today. Definitely. Last but not least, Carolyn Meyer. She is a writer of more than 60 books for children and young adults. At about the time her 60th book was in the works, she decided to have some fun and signed up for some acting improv classes. And she's starting a new career as a comedian and performer. She has performed 2 solo shows in Albuquerque and other parts of the country, and she's now learning how to do podcasts. This woman just is an inspiration, and we haven't even heard her speak yet. So Carolyn, you have the floor. Please share your story with us. Thank you.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much for inviting me and for such a nice intro there. Well, let's go back to the very beginning. Like Matt, I was about 5 years old when the thing happened that made me set the course for the rest of my life. I decided I wanted to be a writer. And the reason I wanted to be a writer was because I wanted to tell stories, because my daddy used to tell me bedtime stories, and he'd fall asleep in the middle of them. And I took it upon myself to finish his stories. And then I thought, well, when I was in school and learning to write, well, I should write these things down. So my first novel was, when I think I was in 3rd grade, Humpy the Caterpillar and Gladys the Snail, a true life romance. I was in romance when I was about 8. Then of course I went to school, and I always knew from then on that I want to be a writer. And but I needed to learn to be good at English. I came from a family where speaking well was, expected. And I was a good student, too good a student sometimes. I should have been out in the playground more, but I didn't, I never could catch a ball or hit one or anything. I wore big, thick glasses, and I wanted to sit around and read. By the time I was in junior high, I was, writing for the newspaper and doing all those things, and enjoying any writing assignments that I got. And I managed to have an, editor of the newspaper and got my hands on the yearbook. And then I went off to college and majored in English because it was the only thing I really wanted to do. I don't think a degree in English is necessarily the road to being a writer. I think one of the roads to being a writer is to read a lot. And also to be writing. I'm amazed at people who want to write, and then I get complaints about, oh, but I have writer's block. I can't do anything. Well, I blow them off. I mean, come on. the thing that you need two things to be a writer. One is discipline. And I think discipline is more important than talent. Because if you have talent and you don't have discipline, you won't do anything. It'll just kind of sit up there in your brain. If with enough discipline, you can take a small talent and develop it and grow it like a little plant. The other thing that I think is very important and to learn at a very early age, while you're still in school, in junior high or high school, wherever you are, and that is to accept criticism, and that is extremely difficult. I think that's a learned skill. You have to listen to somebody say, "Yeah, you think this is great, but it can be better." What? I mean, I've just created a work of genius and you're telling me it has to be better. Even when you get into it at a professional level, you will find editors who will say, "Well, I like most of what you've written. Most, I mean, this is genius. I worked my heart off and the rest of me off too, creating this, and you should think that it's perfect, but it's not." So that means that you do an awful lot of rewriting, and at some point you learn that the thing about writing is the rewriting. Some of the books that I've written. Well, the first book I wrote was a sewing book for little girls. Miss Patches Learned to Sew book, because I had 3 sons, and I always thought, well, I'll have a daughter someday, but I didn't have a daughter, so I wrote this little sewing book, and I got into doing how-to books. And although they're not works of literary genius, I learned how to work with an editor, how to prepare a manuscript, how to do a lot of rewriting to make things clear, and to accept rejection. Rejection is very important to learn to accept rejection, not to let, I used to just, if somebody turned something down, I just was hysterical about it. And throwing myself on the floor and crying for days and all that kind of crap. And you get over that. And rejection for a writer is the norm. What Matt talked about, how many times he auditioned before he got a part. He had to learn to accept rejection. I think this is true in the arts in general. I can't speak for builders and so forth. Maybe they don't get as many chances to do things completely wrong that they have to start all over again. But it really is important to accept rejection and not let it get you down for too long. I mean, you're allowed to cry for a while, but not for too long. And to accept criticism, understand how it's intended, learn that you don't have to take every word of it, but most of it can be helpful. And don't complain about writer's block. I won't listen to that. If you're going to be a writer, you better write, and you better write every day. Keeping a journal is good. I still keep a journal. I'm just careful to delete most of it. I don't want anybody picking up my journals and 10 years from now and think, "Oh my God, that woman." The wall. But it's a good discipline. It focuses your mind, and you need to focus, and it lets you kind of drift around too and try things. My journals are not any work of art at all. They're me talking to me, and it's important, I think, to talk to yourself if you're going to be a writer. Another thing, do not, forget you. I'm very unforgiving about the whole writer's block excuse. I once had a woman, I think she was, can't remember where I met her, but she had written to me for advice, and she said she had writer's block, and I said, nonsense, just write, even if it's garbage, just write. And she said, "You ruined my life." Well, I don't think she's cut out to be a writer. You just can't pull that stuff and get away with it. Another thing that, please don't ask me, how do I get published? That's the wrong question. how do I learn to write is the right question. But not how do I get published. You may not. You may have to accept the fact that it could take years. Look at how long Matt tried to get that part that he wanted. It's the same thing for writing. I suspect it's true if you're a painter or a composer or a dancer. Well, no, I will not talk about being a dancer. We don't have skills in all areas, when you go into the arts. I can write, but no. Music, dance, no. So you know what your talent is, and you stick with that and let it grow. Research. Now, a lot of the books that I have written, because I got past the how-to book stage and began doing historical fiction. And I love doing historical fiction because I love doing research. Some people like it and some don't. And if you don't like it, you probably shouldn't be writing historical fiction because you've got to get it right. A lot of young writers, beginning writers, want to write fantasy because they think they can make everything up. Fantasy is much harder because you have to create an entire universe that's consistent with itself, that every part of it's fun. I can't write fantasy. But I'm pretty good at writing historical fiction because I like to do all the stuff that makes you think that this is a real world and I can enter into this. So years go by. I did 60 books. And then, I thought, geez, I've been doing this for 50 years. And there were some life changes. I live in an apartment downtown Albuquerque. And I'm on the top floor of a building, and down on the ground floor is the Box Theater, where they do improv. And I've always enjoyed improv. But here it is, it's right downstairs. So I go down to watch improv. I got a big kick out of it. And one day there's a sign up on the wall giving classes. And oh my, that'd be interesting. So I signed up for an improv class. I was terrified, for one thing. I walk into this room and I am older than their grandparents when I'm here. So here are all these young people. Daniel Zuniga was one of them, by the way. And they kind of look at me. Who's this old lady? And why is she in this class? Well, I discovered that I'm not really good at improv, but I am a good storyteller. And when I could look at it as telling a story and get into it that way, it began to work for me. I was still terrified for the first class. I thought, you're making a fool of yourself. What are you doing with these kids? I began doing more of it, and the next class came along. I signed up for that. I ended up taking all of them, all the ones they were offering. Matthew, our Matthew, who was on here a little while ago, was in one of these classes. I have to tell you, he was really instrumental in helping me build confidence because he is very good at letting another person find a place. Some of the improvers just jump in. They want to own it, and Matthew just lets you find your way in. I found that extremely helpful, and I recall he wasn't teaching it. He is so humble. He keeps taking these classes, and there he is. He's so good at it, and helps me learn to be better and to develop confidence. The confidence grew. I kind of outgrew itself at some point. I found out one of the things they like to do in improv is somebody steps forward and tells a little story. I can do that. I know how to do that. And I began telling these stories, and I began putting some of these stories together, and I decided, I wonder if I can put together an entire show, some of my stories. And I did. Now, this is not at all the same as sitting home in my little office here, where we are right now, hour after hour, because, you know, you do it all. Writers do not stop working. It's 24/7. Things are churning. You might be sitting and staring out the window, but they're still working. And I found that this was an approach that worked also for putting together this one-woman show. Please don't call me. No, there was no please in it. Don't call me young lady. Have you? I know you wouldn't notice it yet, because when you go into the post office, can I help you, young lady? They don't say that to you, Miss Jarvis, because you are a young lady. But they look at me and they think they're being cute. Well, they're not. They're being condescending. And I got a very sharp edge when it comes to that. So that became the theme of my first show. Well, now I have to memorize this thing. I have no real drama training. I have to figure out how to memorize all this. And it goes on for an hour and 15 minutes, and I'm out there alone in front of an audience. Now, I had some background for this, because I used to do a lot of school visits to junior highs and middle schools. And I'll tell you, because the kids who are watching this today are probably in high school, right?
Right.
Okay. But the seventh graders, you try to keep 350 seventh graders from jumping out of their skin while you're trying to talk to them. And I learned how to do that. And a couple of them would come up to me afterwards and say, "You ought to do stand-up." And yeah. Well, that's what, I mean, sometimes I feel as though I'm right back in front of, an auditorium full of seventh graders, and I've got to keep these people, paying attention. So that was how I made a complete career switch from being completely solitary to being up in front of all these people and trying to keep their attention. So actually my basic point here is, and I think you'd like to show a basic point at some place, that where you start out doesn't necessarily mean where you're going to end up. And yeah, luck. Eric was talking about luck. Learning from flops. I haven't had terribly embarrassing flops that I couldn't recover from. But there have been times I thought, oh my God, I could have done better on that one. And to accept that that's going to happen. I don't have to be perfect.
Right.
But it's this willingness to understand when you're starting off at the beginning of a career that you might make major changes that you never dreamed of.
Mm-hmm.
It could be very exciting.
And they could come as those gifts. You might end up laid off one day, or you might just find yourself living somewhere where there's this other opportunity.
Exactly.
Like
yeah.
And Carolyn, what I love the most about your story is that you had every excuse to be afraid or to not take that leap to try something new. I think a lot of us use these excuses like, oh, I've never done that, or it's not me, or I'm too old, I'm too young, I don't have the experience, I don't really know what to do. And you just did it. And that's...
I just jumped into it, yeah.
And the fact that you did it, and then the fact that you talked about discipline, where you kept going back, and it didn't mean that you were doing it for money or for fame or for fortune. You were doing it as a discipline to get better and to improve yourself. And I think that's your strength, and your message is this, you are where you are, and you've accomplished what you've accomplished with the discipline, willingness to fail, try new things, have a flop, and find the humor in it, and not focus on perfection, because that's...
Oh, yeah, that's deadly.
Yes.
That's deadly to do that. Yeah.
So I think that's so important for our students to hear, because it has definitely, I think, affected all of us in some way, of that fear of trying new things, the what ifs. And like, you know, everyone here today and our activities director with me, we've never done this. We're just doing it because we want to share you guys with our students, and it's not perfect, but I think in the message of it all, it's just try new things, be disciplined, persevere, learn from mistakes, and grow.
That's right.
And find the humor in things. I would love to see one of your shows one day.
I hope you do. I love it.
Thank you for being so genuine. I mean, everyone here has just been real and authentic, and the students can see that, and I can see it too. So thank you for being here on our first day. This YouTube link will stay here so you can show everyone. And I'm definitely gonna try and share this with as many students as I can.
Well, good. And good luck to all of them and
Yes.
you.
Yes. All right, everyone. Well, that was the end of our Monty's Career Monday. Thank you for being with us. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Carr, Ms. Whittet. Bye.